previewed any of my questions. But it's a bunch of the usuals in there. Mm-hmm. So I think we'll be okay.
Oh, we're live?
Yeah, we are. I don't know if people can see us yet, but we are live.
I can see us. And I got the notification. Damn, this is a big old cup.
It is. It's like Stenny's water cups. You notice that her cups just keep getting big? It's like, do you not have access to refills? Why do you need to carry a gallon jug of water around with you?
It would get warm.
It would get warm. All right. I think, yeah, we're live. All right. My mic feels a little hot. Is it hot? I talk a little more. Thank you. I talk a little louder than you do. It feels like I'm seeing some red.
Are you peeking?
Yeah, I feel like it might be peeking here.
Pikachu. Hey, did you like Men in Black?
It was all right. It's like a goofy popcorn movie.
It was a popcorn movie.
Not something you go for like an incredible complex experience.
We got to go to the movies last night, which is a rare occasion.
Very rare these days.
And Men in Black, the new Men in Black, I don't know what they're calling it, just Men in Black something.
International.
Yeah. Had an advanced screening, so we watched it.
Mm-hmm. Hey, the voice of Mark is booming. Seriously, though, let me put on my normal speaking voice at the normal level. Is this too loud? Let me know. I can lower it real quick. I don't want to blow your eardrums out. So yeah, they're saying something's up with the volume. Can you talk real quick?
Blah, 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 blah. I don't know. What do you want me to talk about?
I think you sound fine.
We just got a super chat from Moose. He just said sliding dovetails.
Hey, Moose. Sliding dovetails to you, my friend. Do I sound a little bit better now? Sounds normal to me. A little hot. Okay, yeah. All right, so what I was seeing here is accurate. I'll keep an eye on it. I don't want to be too hot for you guys. You know. Nicole sounds fine. Hopefully people didn't just hear a whole bunch of crackling. Is that any better? I think that's better. Okay, so mine, this is the problem. You take a little mixer and you throw it in a drawer.
And then it gets
And then you have
wonky.
you put it in and take it out and put, like, eventually something is going to get switched.
Kind of like what happened on mine.
Yeah. Or if you have kids running around.
That like to hit buttons.
Gazank says, it's just a bit too spicy.
A bit too spicy. No spicy.
Oh, hey, this is good news. The wrist brace makes you hotter, Mark. Thank you.
This one?
Yeah.
We got the white one on.
I got Nicole's wrist brace on. So here's the deal. Like, I bought one for myself that fits properly, but it digs into the meat of my thumb a little bit too much when it's secure as it needs to be. So Nicole's is like a really small one. It barely fits on my arm, but it actually gives me a nice snug fit without digging into my thumb meat.
This was the early days of Mateo being a baby and constantly needing to be held. And I jacked up my wrist because of it.
Mike says, they could just turn down the volume. Well, of course they can, but I'd rather they didn't have to. I'd rather we get the job right. Crap in, crap out, as they say. And something was set incorrectly on my end, so I had to fix that.
Should we get started?
Let's do it. So it's Friday Live. I'm Mark.
And I'm Nicole.
We're going to talk a little bit about woodworking. We don't have anything to show off or any thank yous.
I do have some announcements.
Okay, let's do those.
End of this month, so it's June. I can't believe it. And June,
Nicole.
At the end of June is when the application closes for the Guild scholarships. And you're like, what? What's a Guild scholarship? Well, the Wood Whisperer has a online woodworking school side of it, and you can purchase projects and get really, really in-depth education.
Yeah.
And we've talked about it before on the show. But it costs money, and some people can't afford that. So 3 years ago, I did this scholarship program, and it took a lot out on me because it was hard to limit it to a certain number, but that's what I got to do. And I have a little help this year because we have some guild members that are donating money to add more scholarships. So I'm letting them vote on.
Oh, cool.
So it kind of takes, because it was.
It's a lot of pressure.
I felt so bad.
Yeah, I got you. I'm with you.
If you go to thewoodwhisperer.com/scholarship, you'll get all the information, including tips on filling out your application. I can't tell you how many applications I would get that had like a sentence. That's not what this is.
Pick me.
Pick me.
First.
No, that's not going to work.
You didn't get a first?
I need, there's specific questions in that application that says, why do you think you deserve this?
Yeah.
This is like a $300 value to get into the guild. You're in for life. You get all that fun stuff. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I have 3 categories: student, which is 18 and under, adult, which is 19 and over, and then military, serving or vet. So those are my categories. So there you go. Okay. End of the month. I don't want to hear at the end of the month, oh, I missed the deadline. It's been open for almost, I guess I opened it last month, so it'll be almost 2 months that it'll be open. Mm-hmm. So there you go. Share it with anybody you think it could benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
You're like,
I'm already bored, Nicole.
I know. It is what it is.
Okay, so what else should we mention?
Anything else going on?
Yeah, so we have a video released today.
Yeah.
This was crazy. The thing is, in the world of free video and like YouTube video, I'm doing nothing, right? Like the interpretation.
You're a lazy bum.
I'm a lazy YouTuber. And I will never call myself a YouTuber.
With
the exception of what I just did. But because we do so much in the guild and so many other things, I released 6 videos yesterday. We got 3 videos in the Hall Tree series, 2 videos in the Hang Chair series came out, and then I did actually release a free video, the dining table, the mid-century modern dining table that went into Jason's house. So that one is out as well. So we're going to call this the 6 Video Friday.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of content to be chewing on. So yes, go check that out. I haven't posted the new video on the Wood Whisperer site because we had a little website bug this morning, but it is on YouTube if you want to check that out.
Harry just said, the problem with you guys...
Oh, great. Okay.
Is that you go live without warning. Why don't you pre-announce your streams the way other streamers do it?
All right, Harry, listen. Because we do it the same time every week.
We moved it for the summer, but we have a calendar. I don't know how else I can, He
wants to, go to Twitter and say, hey, we're going live in a few minutes.
I've done the Twitter thing, and I get random, come to my stream.
Look, I'm going to tell you exactly why it happens. We have 2 children who we just barely get to school before we do this show. We're lucky to get back, and Nicole goes, hey, it's Friday Live, and I'm at the computer cramming something in before, and we go, oh, okay, we'll do it. We're just a very busy family, and we don't I don't know, it's a weird thing. We don't have to play the games other people play. The people who like the show know when it is. We also have that little bell that you can click, which will give you a notification as soon as we go live. I sometimes just don't feel the need to cram ourselves down your throats. And I realize as a marketer, that doesn't make sense.
We're terrible.
Right? We're terrible marketers, but a lot of times it's just, real life that intervenes, that prevents us from thinking of all the marketing things you're supposed to do, like other streamers. Getting our kids to school with their shoes on the right foot, and not wearing their underwear on the outside.
Is there something I could be doing on YouTube side to schedule the
You can you could do an up next scheduling the live stream, but the way YouTube's messing with the beta for the whole back end, it's a little more confusing.
Because we have to make sure that we can get it here.
But usually you can go to the live stream page and schedule your next live stream. But I'm just not sure how that impacts what we normally do on a weekly basis.
We could try it.
But yeah, so the whole point is, I don't mean to be a turd. We're trying, but at the same time, our priorities for notifications and things like that are generally elsewhere this early in the morning on a Friday. So anyway, long answer to your question.
We're just lucky to be here.
Yeah, we're lucky to be alive. I'm just glad I woke up this morning. Okay, so what else we got here?
We got some questions. You got questions?
Tim says, and now there are ads in front of the live stream loads too. Look, we don't do anything different. We always leave monetization on. What YouTube decides to do with that is kind of out of our control. If they're throwing in ads before We don't say
if they
when the ads
happen
come
during, let us know, because that wouldn't be cool.
in the middle of the stream, that would be crappy.
Yeah.
But it happens.
I'm looking to see if Moose had any questions about those sliding dovetails, but I don't see anything.
I'm going to answer a question before I get to. Okay, so just real quick, we do have Patreon. If you want to go to patreon.com/woodwhisperer, you can get some cool stuff in return for your donations, and we'll answer your questions on the show, as well as Nicole here will grab questions from the live chat room. And I've got one here from John Howard. He says, what are the pros and cons of always using a zero clearance insert for all table saw 90-degree cuts? I don't think that there is a con for using a zero clearance for 90 degrees. The con comes in when you want to do something else, right? You want to do something off 90, then you're going to go at an angle and you're going to increase the size of that little clearance slot. If you want to use a dado stack, you certainly can't use the same one you use for regular 90-degree cuts in a single blade. So there really are no general cons to using one. I would always use one anytime you can. It's safer. The cut is cleaner. And overall, it's just going to improve things. So no cons that I can even think of. You got any questions before I jump into my Patreon questions?
I just want to, Chris Calnassi says, by the way, who is the miserable one or two people that have enough free time to follow Mark's doings and always thumb down his work?
Dude, I feel you, brother. I feel you. This morning, first thing, I kid you not, I hit publish. And then within 5 seconds, I changed something with the title, and then I went to look at the website. I had 1 thumbs up and 1 thumbs down. And I know people say, like, oh, you never know. Someone may have been fed that video and they didn't want to see it.
You just uploaded it.
With that time frame, there is someone out there, and probably multiple someones, who they're just waiting for a published video so that they can thumb it down.
Show him!
Which is fantastic. I always remember that scene in Howard Stern's Private Parts.
Yeah.
Right, where they talk about the people who hate him.
The marketing research or something.
Yeah, the research showed that the people who hate him actually listened, yeah, it was radio, listened longer and more than the people who were his fans. So look, the thumbs down, the I like you, the I hate you, like this is all part of you put something out there and people are going to respond in one way or another. But all I can say is thumbs down counts as an interaction in YouTube's eyes. So thumb down all you want. It doesn't really hurt us. It might annoy me a little bit, which is probably what they're going for. So, hey, mission accomplished there.
We have a super chat here from Bill.
Hold on a second. I like Jim's theory. It's Matt that's doing it. You're probably right, Jim.
I like that. I want to think of all like your mentors going in there.
Matt gets a notification. Boop. Take that, Spags.
Oh, man. Bill says, Bill Okert. Thank you for letting me know how to pronounce your last name. I was just going to call you Bill.
Yeah.
In celebration of the arrival of Mezzalindella into the world on May 31st, she joins her 3 brothers, Miles, Mason, and Maddox.
A kid was born.
Oh, his grandchildren.
As
a 4th grandchild.
Very unique names.
I hope I didn't.
And look, they're all M's.
Yeah.
It's a very thematic
4M.
family.
I wonder if they work. Or no, that's 3M.
That's 3M, Nicole.
Oh, yeah.
Terrible joke anyway. Hey, well, congratulations.
Yes,
that's fantastic to hear.
Very nice.
We always love to hear when the little ones come into the world, and then we love to hear the parents suffering the next year. Love it, but that's great. Congratulations.
It's brutal.
Okay, let's get to some of our questions that came from Patreon here. Chris Calnassi says, hey, Spags. And by the way, I haven't previewed any of these, so I don't even know what they're asking.
Uh-oh.
Remember that whole thing, like we're in a rush in the morning?
Yeah.
I didn't even get a chance to look at these questions.
Okay.
But I trust these people. I'm making a toy chest for a friend's daughter and really want to try a new finishing technique or brand. The chest will be mostly, if not all, cherry. To this date, all I have really done are oil finishes and some stain with poly on top. Anything that'll give a nice matte finish that's easy to apply for something like this. Hope you have a great weekend. Well, thanks, Chris. You know, I get it. I get the temptation to try new finishes, and I think that's one of the things that makes finishing so frustrating for a lot of us is we don't specialize. We don't spend time getting good at one thing before we move on to something else and try something else. You are already in a world of finishes that's actually fairly easy to apply, that makes a nice matte finish, and is easy enough to renew and can, in most cases, be a no or low VOC situation. So you already have that finish. That's what I probably would have recommended if you said, hey, what finish should I choose for this? If you're really looking to experiment and go beyond that, well, now you're looking at potentially film finishes that have flatteners added to them to make it that matte finish. And you're looking at more complicated finishes and most likely finishes that have a lot more nasty stuff in them and high VOCs. So I would sort of caution you to really think about whether that is what you want to do for this, for the sake of trying something new. It could very well be an exercise in frustration and exposing yourself to new things and new chemicals that you weren't exposed to before. But you certainly could move to a matte wipe-on poly. That's a fairly easy finish. Previous years, that would have been my go-to recommendation when someone says, hey, I'm new to woodworking. I want to put on a good finish that I can count on protecting this thing, but is fairly easy to apply. Well, a wipe-on polyurethane is one of the best that you can do for that. So maybe check that out. That's a classic, simple finish.
Cool.
Cool, right? Right, Nicole? Nicole concurs.
I'm just trying very hard to wait until you're done talking.
I
don't interrupt you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
I'm
going to try not to interrupt you as well.
Okay.
This is a couples therapy thing that we're doing here.
Simon Mary says, hi, I'm in the UK and I received your books last month. Really pleased. I paid the extra for the signed ones. Superb reference books. Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you.
And I wanted to make note, if any of you have ever shopped in our merchandise store, which is at twwstore.com, we recently moved it over to the Guild. Mm-hmm. So the Guild has a store, so you're going to find all the books. Everything's going to be in one place. It's a novel concept, really.
It's a nice consolidation. I mean, but it is inside the Guild, so there is a little, remember that whole bad marketing thing that we talked about? We consolidated to make things simpler for us, but it's kind of a little hidden inside the Guild website.
Yeah.
But the problem is
TWW store redirects to...
You just interrupted me.
Oh, sorry.
Failed.
Store.
Failed mission, Nicole. Sorry. You failed today.
Well, I'm sure you will too.
Go on, please.
No.
Please,
you.
no. You.
No,
you go first. So ultimately, though, we needed to consolidate some things because were so fragmented, and then you have that one service is $30 a month, and then the other service is $20 a month, and all these little things add up, and you start realizing that tons of money is going out, and there's better ways to get things done.
We have to pay our employee now.
Yeah, we've got an employee to pay. So, all right, what else?
So yeah, twwstore.com will take you over there. If you are a Guild member, you get 10% off things like the card scraper, the coin,
any physical objects,
the canvas.
Right?
Apron. The only things that are really excluded are the leather apron, Woodworkers Fighting Cancer.
Well, the WFC stuff is charity, so we don't discount that. No. The leather apron is really expensive for us, so there's not much in the way of
much margin.
A margin on that one, so we can't do that either. Okay.
So but if you go over, if you are a Guild member and you're logged in, go to your discounts tab, which is underneath your profile, and you'll see towards the bottom, the Guild discount coupon code, and you'll get an extra 10% off there.
I feel you, Bill. Bill says he hasn't completed a sentence in 37 years.
Hey.
Marriage.
All
right. Shall I do another one here?
Sure. I'm collecting them too. Don't worry. I'm getting your questions.
Aaron Pena says, along the same lines as my question from last week, do you have any strategies for determining the offcuts and scrap pieces that you keep versus the ones that go into the trash or a burn pile, especially with the more expensive woods? Also, you are right that my last name should have a tilde. Is that it? Tilde. A tilde. Over the end. Don't grab my coffee, girl.
Sorry for coffee.
But I tend to not include it because I never know how that platform is going to interpret it. Oh, that makes sense. He says it's like pen, writing utensil. Like see you later, pena. Okay, I got it. Not pena. Pena.
Pena.
Okay, perfect. Okay, back to his question. So you're making scraps. And this is, I think, a personal decision for everybody. Depending on the type of work you do, the way I would evaluate it, because scraps can really pile up, and eventually you just have this giant thing of scraps just wasting space. You have to decide what size scraps are valuable to you, and a lot of that comes down to what you build. And if you tend to build things in the smaller, category of furniture or accessories and small boxes, you have a lot more scrap than I would. A lot of the stuff I build, while I will occasionally do something small, most of the time it's, I would say medium to large furniture projects. So little tiny pieces like this are not quite as valuable to me. If you're a turner, well then sky's the limit.
That's not tiny for a turner.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a turner, anybody's scrap is probably reasonable material that you might be able to turn into something beautiful. But I think it really comes down to the type of work you typically do, where you draw that line. For me, often in a small shop with very limited space, even with the storage shed that we have now for storing some of the lumber, I still have to be very, very careful about how much scrap wood I accumulate. It just gets out of control. So one of the things I like to do, I've done it in the past, is I'll have a little sell-off, and we'll probably do one of these pretty soon, where you just have people pay for shipping, and then you send them the scraps. And this way, some person who can use it for inlays, scroll work, turning, whatever it is, you can give these to another woodworker rather than seeing them go to waste. A lot of my stuff actually ends up in the smoker. I've got more smoking wood than I know what to do with. Yeah. With the amount of cherry and alder that I have laying around, it's something that, if that's one of your hobbies and you like to cook, there's a good use for that stuff. And I know it probably frustrates some people to know that some of these scraps are ending up being burned, but it's part of the Spagnola consumption circle. So, but it can be tricky.
And you're going to show alder plank salmon.
Yes, in the
next video.
In the Halltree video, both the free version and the guild version, we're going to put that little salmon recipe in there.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's going to be awesome.
Bradley Connell says, looking to make a baby rattle and a chunky puzzle for my boss's baby. Any tips on wood finish and glues to use that are baby safe?
I think any of the type bond glues are going to be fine when you actually look at how much of the joint, even let's say that you use epoxy or something, the actual amount of glue left in that joint post-finishing and all that stuff, I think it's probably minimal. But I would definitely go with something like a Type Bond 2 or 3. For the finish, just anything that's no VOC is, I think, perfectly fine. I would probably go with like a tried and true oil. I don't know that I would say go to things like Rubio or Osmo. I think those are pretty expensive for that task. But definitely like tried and true is a polymerized linseed oil. It's a pretty good finish for baby stuff, and it's perfectly food safe. It's something that, technically, if you wanted to take a swig out of the bottle, it's not going to hurt you. Well, it'll probably give you diarrhea, but depends on how much you consider that being hurt. Sometimes it does hurt.
Yeah.
Can I dwell on it any longer?
No. Let's keep moving.
So tried and true varnish oil is probably a good option for something like that. That's what I would go with. I probably would not go into the territory of anything film-based. A lot of folks will say just use shellac. Shellac is perfectly food safe once it's cured. But again, I don't see a need to have the film on there. It's something that's going to be teethed and destroyed. It's going to look like crap if
Lewis said he's
has a
used
film on it.
walrus oil and wax to finish a rattle, and it worked really well.
Yeah, Walrus Oil is I think they're a newer company. At least their marketing efforts are certainly newer.
We have a discount code in the guild for it too.
And we have some of their products. I use some of their wax on a cutting board, and I believe all of their stuff is more of a mineral oil base. And I think they might have some other oils put in there as well. But that is a non-drying oil. So, but again, look at the product line. I could be wrong. My personal preference is to use drying oils. Mineral oil is something that isn't going to cure. And I don't like the idea that it can kind of seep out of the wood over time. It can also, feel a little bit greasy at times. I like a wood or a finish that actually does eventually cure. But that's just my opinion. But Walrus Oil is a good product.
Steven did a super chat. I think it was the Amazon, or not Amazon, the YouTube Prime.
Yeah.
But if you have a question, Steven, drop it in the chat. Alfredo says, hey guys, greetings from Mexico. What are your thoughts about desktop CNC machines for those of us that don't have the biggest or greatest machines to build guild projects? You don't need a CNC machine to build guild projects.
No, in fact, I think if you're going to build guild projects with a CNC, you're going to be venturing into new territory. I know some people have done it, but it's not exactly something that we support because I don't own a CNC and I don't design the projects to be CNC friendly, or even the documentation and the files you would need to make them via CNC. So that said, whatever you want. Like the only thing I could think
I'm trying to think of some of the desktop ones.
Well, there might be templates. CNC is great for making templates, and a lot of the guild projects do rely on templates. So you may very well be able to knock out some sweet templates that way.
I want to say in our guild group, someone had mocked up something for the hang chair in CNC.
That's one thing that's happening right now. He did cut the templates for the hang chair via CNC, and I think he's going to send me the file. I'll post that file for other people. That's one that I can't warranty the file, quote unquote.
We have a file section in the guild group on Facebook too.
Right, but that then is going out to everybody. So
that's
it has to be to hang chair subscribers.
Gotcha.
Walrus oil is beeswax and coconut oil. Are you sure there's no mineral oil in that? Maybe, I don't know, maybe they have, I know they have a lot of different products, but I could have sworn it's a mineral oil base with other oils added, but obviously I don't know if I'm wrong.
Jay Cooney says, speaking of your new employee, have there been any thoughts of having him having a video series acclimating to woodworking, gaining knowledge, creating plans, building his own projects, etc., etc.?
No, only because Jason is a beautiful man. While I find the words. He is
my brother.
He's a very skillful, hands-on person. I believe he took shop, like wood shop, in high school.
Yeah.
So he has a little bit of experience.
He worked in a wood shop cabinet for a little while.
Yeah, he said he did work in a cabinet shop for a little bit. So he has some relevant experience. But what Jason is a skilled laborer in that sense. Like he's worked on construction sites, and he did a lot of drainage work and stuff like that. So he's skilled and very, very teachable. But I don't think, maybe he'll get there, but I don't think Jason is
really, he hasn't even been in the job for a year.
Yeah.
I think this is my prediction.
Thanks for interrupting me again.
Good.
Now that we brought it up, I can't stop thinking about it. Like, this is how we live and this is how we speak.
Yeah.
But when I'm on camera and attention has been brought to interrupting, then it's suddenly, I'm like, now I notice it.
But here's the problem. I'll never speak if I let you continue to talk.
What are you trying to say?
You talk a lot.
Go on.
So anyway,
I'll finish what I was saying later.
I think Jason eventually will want to do video. I think it's such a new world for him that he is absorbing. It took me, 10 years before I even got comfortable being on camera. So I doubt it's going to take him that long.
But I think where this comes down to, like what it really comes down to is, does Jason want to be a fine woodworker? Is that his goal in life? And I don't know that that's the case yet. I know he's really enjoying the process. He likes building things with his hands, and he likes learning the finer techniques. And I know he loves seeing the finished product because a lot of the finished product so far has been going in his house. So I know he likes that. But, he's a car guy. Like his passion thus far has been in cars. So will that passion translate eventually to woodworking, which would then facilitate him trying to maybe get his own shop and stuff like that? That all remains to be seen. Right now, his goal is to make my life easier in the shop, and that's what he's trying to do. So we're getting him on a second camera. You'll notice in a dining table video that we just released, we have a lot of second camera shots, and sometimes it's him doing the work and I'm filming him, and vice versa, because now we have that second camera to get a nice variety of shots, and that's only going to get better with time. But I think his focus is just to do a great job here in the shop, and not so much, be the next fine woodworker. That's why you guys don't even know his Instagram handle. He's got a private Instagram account. We have intentionally held off bringing him into the fold socially like that because I don't know if he wants it. So it's a different thing. It's interesting to watch his evolution in the shop and what he decides he wants out of it. Let me go to... Oh, hold on. Someone said I'm correct. Hold on. There. Woodchuck. Thanks. That was regarding the mineral oil in the walrus oil.
I was like, don't encourage it.
Just in general, I think I might just hold on to this. Hold on. Can I save this and just pop it up whenever it's convenient for me? All right. So the next question here is from Yoso. He says, Mark, you're already a couple years into this new shop. Anything you wished you've done differently in your shop setup? How's the lighting situation holding up? Honestly, no, I don't think there's anything I would have done differently. We're still moving toward, getting this space to exactly what we want it to be. Had a discussion with a air conditioning place because I think I'd like it to be a little bit cooler in here in summer. I've gone so far without air conditioning and it's been fine. But at the production rate that we're going now, the amount of time we're going to be spending in here, I would like to have a mini split, which would also, really save us a bunch of money on those cooler days in wintertime. So it would be something where I might use the electric heaters to kind of goose the heat up a little bit, and then use the mini split to maintain it and save on energy costs and have something that's quiet that I could film with. So that's where my brain is headed, is like those little creature comfort improvements. I really like the shop layout for what it is and for how this, what I had to work with. I'm really happy with the way everything turned out here, and I think we'll continue to evolve things. I feel like I need to rearrange my clamp wall. We still have storage that needs to be incorporated into the space, but nothing major that I would change. I'm pretty happy with the way things are.
I'm glad you're happy.
Thanks, Nicole.
Now my car has hail damage because you're so happy.
Well, listen, toots.
Anyway.
You know why you have a car?
Yeah, that's true.
Because of the shop.
Steven says, looking to buy a good router plane. Thoughts on better brands to look for?
A router plane?
Router plane.
There's only really two that I know of. I mean, you could look at classic ones if you could find like a good find on eBay, but that's going to be difficult to locate and to win an auction on something like that. You might get lucky at a flea market too. But really, there's only two dogs in that game that I know of, and that's the Veritas version and the Lee Nielsen version. Sometimes, a lot of times we say that the two companies are equivalent, but sometimes Veritas will make enough changes to a tool to make it hands down, in my mind, unquestionably better. And the router plane is one of those instances. The range of blades that they have available, from little teeny tiny guys to a big nice wide one, and just the functionality of this thing is a vast improvement over the classic design, and Lee Nielsen's is more of the classic design. So without a doubt, I think the best value, the best functionality that you're going to get out of it is going to come from the Veritas version of the router plane.
All right. I've been grabbing questions. Are you done with your questions?
One more from Joe Clemmer.
Okay.
If you were to rank the level of enjoyment that you get, how would the following stack up? Design, build, finish, instruct. As always, thanks. Oh, wow. I would put building at number 1. I'd probably put instruction at number 2.
Not sanding?
No. We'll put sanding under the finishing category. Finishing at number 3, and then design at 4 as my last one.
There you go. All right.
All right, so I'm done with questions. It's all you.
Because now...
I mean, I'm done with pre-selected.
Jay Cooney, dear Wood Whisperer, as a rep of the Sapwood Association of America, I regret to inform you that after watching your latest video, Mid-Century Modern Dining Table, we must revoke your membership.
Okay, fine.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, the whole sapwood thing, it was just, you got to make that decision when you enter into a project with other woods, of course.
Because you put sapwood
cherry and walnut.
You put sapwood in the desk.
I did, yeah. So you have to make that decision ahead of time. Do you want it? And if you want it, you have a certain responsibility. That responsibility is to not let it be random, right? Because if you just have this random streak of sapwood and it's nowhere else, that looks goofy. But if you can actually make it strategic and line things up in a way that it looks purposeful and natural, that to me is a worthy time to include sapwood. So Jay, when in discussing with him about what he wanted with this table, because it was going in his house, I said, do you want sapwood? He said no. So then the goal was to avoid sapwood. So,
there you go.
But you might see sapwood, and I'll redeem myself in other projects. I actually kind of like the look of sapwood, except for when it shows up and I didn't expect it to be there. Then I don't like it.
We've got a question here from Gary Badger. I have a walnut tabletop that looks like it may have been finished with an oil-based finish, no film finish. Can you use Osmo over the non-film finish?
Osmo, probably. You probably want to give that a nice sanding. You want to make sure that it's not like a mineral oil finish or something that isn't fully cured. But if nothing's coming off on your hands and it's very much dry to the touch, I think you could probably get away with it. See, Osmo is a little bit different in the hard wax oil territory. Something like Rubio very much needs raw wood to do what it's supposed to do. That's the magic of it. If it doesn't bind to raw wood, it's just going to kind of sit there on the surface and doesn't really do its job. Osmo is something that I found that acts a little bit more like a film finish, so much so that you could apply it with a roller and leave a nice thick layer, and it will dry to the nice hard wax film. So I would guess, and you may want to just double check with the fine print and things like that on what they recommend for a pre-finished surface, But if that were my table, I would probably just give that top a nice 150 to 180 grit sanding and then start working with the Osmo. I would not just go right on top of what you currently have. You should probably give it a little bit of sanding to prep it for that. But I think it could work.
We have a question here from, let me scroll up. Tim JB, can the Incra 5000 or the Incra mitre Express 1000 sleds be used on a benchtop table saw?
I don't know. I think it really depends on your miter slot. So if your miter slot can accept a standard, hoochie coochie, what are those things called?
Hoochie coochies.
The miter bar. If your table saw has a standard miter bar on it, it will work. Should be fine. But a lot of times the benchtop models either have some kind of weird shaped one or proprietary miter slot that it might not work.
Question from Scott. Is black walnut an overly oily wood for glue ups? I'm working on a cutting board using black walnut for the first time, and I was just wondering.
No, I wouldn't classify walnut as an oily wood.
Black walnut.
Yeah, walnut.
Okay.
I've never done anything to walnut to, a lot of times with oily species, some of these exotics, you have to be careful about how you glue them and then also how you finish them. Walnut's just not one of those woods that we worry about those things.
Hadamona? Is that how you say it? Hadamona?
Sure.
Just said, good morning, very early for Australia.
Oh, good day.
Good day.
That's what we say in America about Australia. We say good day.
We got another question here from Walker's Milling. I've brought some lumber into my shop to acclimate before a project. I noticed that the lumber is slightly warping. Is there anything I can do to prevent this? Band it, strap it, slap it, flip it, rub it down.
Oh no. You can kind of try to fight it. I think sometimes, though, one of the best things you could do is just let it do what it's going to do, right? And then you can mill it down, flatten it out, and try to get it to, behave. But that's what we do generally with stickering and stacking. Sometimes, putting a little pressure on there can kind of encourage these boards to stay as flat as they can possibly be. But I always feel like wood just kind of has this internal memory, this internal desire to go in a certain direction and do something. And sometimes I feel like if it's kind of like perming hair, right? Like you can change the shape, but ultimately it's eventually going to go back to whatever it wanted to be in the first place.
Did I ever tell you how...
Tell me about your perms.
I did have many, many perms in my youth.
I like those pictures where you have the big poof in the front.
Well, that wasn't a perm. I'm talking like I really wanted a spiral perm.
Well, who doesn't? I mean, really.
But my hair is so heavy and thick that...
It doesn't take the treatment very well?
Within 2 days, it would be straight apart.
Wah, wah. Yeah, I get you.
I have a spiral perm in my 80s. My 80s get up.
Sounds sweet.
I know.
So yeah, I think you could do something to kind of help it, encourage it to stay flat. And again, you don't want to do anything that limits air because you want to make sure that air gets in and out and is allowed to, that's part of the acclimation process, is exposure to new fresh air. So if you sticker and stack it and even put some weights on it or band it, you might be able to keep the wood in a little bit more of a straighter, shape or flatter shape. But there's been times where, you'll go to the lumber place and they'll bring down a new pallet and then they slap that thing on there. There's got these like metal bands around it and they cut that band and it goes boing, and then all the wood that was like on the top there just goes, and starts to find that shape that it wanted to be in the first place. So I think you can encourage it and you can try, but if the wood is really moving a lot now that you brought it into your shop, you may be cautious around that material because it could be problematic going forward.
Thankfully, I have a place where I can look at Super Chats, and I missed 2 at the beginning of the show, so I want to apologize to Create to Make. He said, have a great day. Thumbs up.
Mm-hmm.
And Johnny Matney says, router use needs pictures and videos to understand.
Okay.
Oh, that was, interesting.
It's a comment coming in.
On doing the Cabbage Patch one. No, it's Super Chat.
That was last week.
But it came in today.
That's odd.
Weird. Strange. Wait a minute. What's today?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's
not the 7th.
It's the 14th. So Crafty Maker wants to know, would you like to build a river table? If not, why?
We let Matt do that.
We made Matt do it. Actually, in the dining table video that I just released, we filled a crack at the end with epoxy, and I actually said in the video that that is my one and only contribution to the world of epoxy river tables.
There you go.
So the short answer to that, Crafty Maker, is no. The reason why, because why would I? There are so many people who are really good. They specialize in those epoxy mixes. I'm not really interested in dealing with vats of epoxy. It's not something that's...
the vat of epoxy.
Yeah, it's just not in my list of things I want to do.
David Murphy does super chat and said, thank you for all you do. Appreciate you both. Well, David, we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, David.
Thank you. We got a question here from B. Walker. Setting up a shop compressed air system. Do I need to be concerned with any moisture in the system, even if I don't use a spray gun? Mostly use air for blowing off equipment and projects.
I think, especially if you're doing like a larger piped system, you probably want to be concerned about that. Condensation could be an issue. If you just have a short line like I do, basically small compressor, a little extender tube, I don't really have anything on there to worry about moisture. I'm also in Denver, so it's not that humid here, but you should still be draining your tank periodically to make sure that any accumulation in there gets out. But yeah, I mean, I think if you're doing a low-use system, you're not doing HVLP, and you're not necessarily putting piping around your shop, I don't know that you necessarily need to have some kind of a moisture catcher or filter or whatever those little add-ons are that you could put in line to deal with moisture in the line. Folks who are more familiar with running pneumatic tools and things like that might have better advice on that. But for me, just from like sort of a layman's perspective, I don't think it's really that necessary. And I don't run any pneumatic tools other than a couple of guns, a quick blast of compressed air. It's never been a problem for me.
Patrick's in the chat, and he says, I'm in Colorado Springs, so the climate is similar to yours. With our climate, how much acclimation do you find works well for you, if any at all?
I don't really have to worry too much about that. I mean, most of the wood that I get is from Austin Hardwoods. Austin Hardwoods stores their stuff in fairly open-aired areas. So the warehouse, the storage units that are over on the side, they're kind of exposed to the same conditions that my garage exists in. So I don't really worry too much about acclimation. I did get a new moisture meter from Wagner. I've been playing with that because now I'm doing something with storage that I haven't done before, is putting things into that shed. It's an unconditioned space with good airflow. So I just wanted to see, am I going to be dealing with changes between the shop and the shed? And so far, so good. It's been fine. So I haven't really worried too much about acclimation, and I haven't seen any negative results from rushing into a project. Again, good milling practice, trying to take off even amounts from both sides of a board. Those are the things that help promote flatness. And if you get your material from a place that stores the wood in the way that you store it in the shop or something similar, excuse me, I don't think it's really going to be that big of a deal. But look, if you want to acclimate your stuff, it's never a bad idea to give your material a couple of weeks to sit in your shop before you actually use it.
A couple of weeks?
Sure.
See, I'm impatient. I'd be like,
These
I want
things
to use
take
this.
time, Nicole. It takes time.
Clint says, any reason to use a crosscut sled instead of a mitre gauge? I have a sled and have started using my mitre gauge more. Mitre gauge is on entry-level Incra that I added an MDF fence to.
Yeah, I do think there are advantages to a sled over a mitre gauge, and the primary one is friction. When you're pushing on a mitre gauge, your workpiece is on the table. So in order to get that thing to move forward, you actually have to push it over the table, and then you have sort of the friction between the workpiece and a table that could, not always, I mean, it's not, obviously we wouldn't use it if it happened all the time, but it is something that you're fighting as the workpiece might, move because it wants to stick to the table. With a sled, the workpiece is completely immobilized. You can clamp it in place, lock it down, and all you're pushing is the sled, and that sled is moving on a track and can only go in two directions, forward and back. So generally speaking, the sled is something that's going to provide a safer, potentially easier cut because it's, the friction exists between the sled and the table, not the workpiece and the table. That said, I still have a mitre gauge and I still have a sled. There are times when I want to use one or the other. Just depends on what you're doing.
So Worth Effort just said a woodworker just had air compressor tank explode on them.
Oh, Nikes.
Yes. Oh,
What was the...
Water was in the tank.
Oh, no. So
Yeah.
Drain your tanks, yo. I'm glad I mentioned that. Guess what I'll be doing this afternoon? Draining my tank.
You've reminded a few people already to do that.
Mm-hmm.
That's scary.
Just be aware, if you do this on like your driveway, a lot of times you get a little bit of rust coming out of that tank, and it will stain your driveway. So try to either collect the water or put it in some place where it's not going to stain your driveway.
Moose, it's okay. If you do have a question, let me know. Nip Flick Wick says, how straight is straight enough? I'm building a king size bed and getting the long parts perfectly straight is really tough. Just the act of clamping a board to the bench causes issues.
This is one of those things that as you get more experience, you just kind of get a feel for. A long part, in terms of being absolutely straight, most of the time, it's not super critical that it be perfect because you often don't have things referencing from those long parts, right? So if you're thinking of like, let's say a bed rail, if that bed rail between the footboard and the headboard isn't absolutely perfectly straight, is it really going to matter? You know, the thing that really matters is the joint between, you know, at the ends. So the joint between the headboard and the rail and the footboard and the rail, that's where it's critical. If there's anything going on between those points, as long as it's not totally out of whack, probably isn't going to impact very much. You know, same thing with like a face frame, let's say. If that, you want to get it as straight as possible, but if you got a long 6-foot face frame piece and it's a little bit warped, well, you can usually bend that right out of the piece as you're tacking it onto your carcass. So it just depends on the project you're building. Most long pieces, though, I don't think are going to require absolute straightness, unless something is referencing off of it and the structure is built in such a way that you really need it to be perfectly straight. Otherwise, I think you probably can have a little bit of flexibility there. The project will tell you when it's not straight enough.
Did you see that Scott Hampshire built the bed?
Oh, yeah.
It looks beautiful.
It's gorgeous. He's got some nice panels.
He made it into a queen bed. Mm-hmm. Though with all... Scott, you have a lot of kids. Why don't you have a king-size bed?
Maybe he's smart and doesn't let the kids sleep in his bed.
All right.
We
have a question from Stephen Gossett.
Okay.
Building the Greene and Greene blanket chest with the hidden drawers. Needing drawer bottoms. Local hardware has a quarter ply, but crap quality. I was going to say crop. Mm-hmm. I have 1/8 on hand. Any issues?
It's a small drawer.
Yeah, it's pretty tiny.
I mean, 1/8 of an inch is pretty thin for a drawer bottom. And I'm just trying to think of the size of that one. It's maybe like this. It'll probably be fine. That drawer is not deep enough to hold anything substantial.
No.
You know? So it'll probably be okay. I mean, really, documents.
I honestly forget it's even there.
Like books. Well, and ours is on carpet.
Yeah.
So it's harder to pull that drawer out. All of my hidden drawers, by the way, with the exception of Ava's, which has the note in the back, all of my hidden drawers are empty. I only do hidden drawers because people find it fun and it's a neat thing, but I don't use them for anything. So I would say 1/8 inch, you probably can get away with it, though it's not my favorite. I might even, as long as the crappy 1/4 inch plywood is flat and not all potato chippy wonky, I would probably just use the crappy 1/4 inch stuff over the 1/8 inch stuff. 1/8 inch is just really, really thin for even a small drawer bottom. Though I think you could get away with it, I'd advise going with the 1/4 inch.
Bradley followed up his question about the finishing of the baby toys. And wants you to a wood. What wood would you recommend? Because I remember I got those teething rings for Mateo because a baby's gonna chew on it.
If I were making something that I know for sure a child was putting in its mouth, I would probably only use maple. You know, there are, like, if you go on Amazon and you look for those wooden teething rings, they have them made out of all kinds of wood, and a lot of it looks like it might even be, you know, some foreign species, and maybe it's safe. I don't know. But
wooden teething toys are hard maple wood. Besides, made with walnut, alder, cherry.
Think in terms of cutting board woods. You know, any of the domestic species you might see used for other food-specific items, those are the ones that you might consider for a baby. But for me, maple, at least we know it's good. We know it's, you know, not going to do any harm. It's also a nice, durable hardwood. I would use hard maple.
There you go. Stay away from nut trees if there's an allergic response.
Steer clear of the nuts, Nicole.
Wait a minute. What did you say?
What?
What kind of wood?
Maple.
Maple. I was going to say, not walnut.
Yeah. All of the, someone says, no weed in Nicole's drawer?
No.
Look, we don't have to hide it in drawers. We're in Colorado.
And I also don't smoke.
Yeah.
So,
that's where you hide your CBD oils.
There you go. CBD. And let's see, we got a question here from Rudy. Thinking about building my own router table, not purchasing the top, router lift, or plate.
Wow.
Just practicing working on a router table. Any advice? Didn't you make one for yourself? I made
a base.
Oh, okay. I thought
router tables.
It was like all different woods, though.
Yeah, the base.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never built a router tabletop. One of the best-selling plans, I believe, on the New Yankee Workshop is the router table, his deluxe router table. And he did a really good job on that one. Even today, I mean, you can go on YouTube, and I'm sure you will find 100 different router table builds. But I'm going to go ahead and recommend Norm's because that's the only one I've seen. And it's a pretty good one. So if you're looking for guidance on do's and don'ts, that's probably a good reference for you. But of course, go Google on YouTube or search YouTube and just look for some of those. You'll get some good suggestions there.
Are all the New Yankee workshops up on that website?
I think on This Old House. I don't know if they're all there. I know initially they had a couple seasons, and then I forgot to check back. I don't know where they're at with that.
I'll check.
Dog's freaking out there. But you got to be careful with the router table. You want to make sure that the top is thick enough to hold a heavy router and a lift or whatever kind of plate you're going to use. You just want to make sure there's no sag. So building it yourself is actually, if you get the right materials and you build it correctly with some good reinforcement, you got a shot of doing that. Even commercial tops can sag over time, depending on the quality level and what they're made out of.
So I'm on thisoldhouse.com, and season 1 through season 20 of New Yankee Workshop is there. Look at that. Oh no, they skipped from 15 to 20. Okay. So
I think they're still getting them all up there.
Yeah.
But that's got to be a lot of work.
But there's still a lot in here.
Mm-hmm. The router table may be on one of those seasons.
Yeah, unless it's on season 16 through 19.
Yeah.
But it seems like all the other seasons are there.
Gary says Summerfield Tools has a great router table build on YouTube. There you go.
There's the This Old House link in the chat. Bada bing. Joshua Pintengraw. Sorry, Joshua. Nothing at the moment. I just appreciate what you two do.
Oh, well, thank you. Josh. I appreciate you watching.
Sorry, Joshua.
Joshua.
I shortened his name without.
Yeah.
Let's see. We also have a question here from John Howard. I don't see box/finger joints in Essential Joinery book. Is that because they're always a better choice?
Well, I think the reason we had to do that was because they're very comparable to dovetails. So we covered dovetails because you can't do a book on joinery without talking about dovetails, right? They're the one that gets all the attention. Very comparable to finger box joints. I mean, I guess if someone else wrote the book, I could see it also showing that there's a justifiable reason for that joint to be in there.
Didn't you already go past the number of pages you were supposed to do?
Oh, absolutely. It well exceeded the page count that they wanted us to do. But I think that's the thing. I actually don't think that dovetails truly are essential joints. But as a woodworker, it would be, sacrilege to get into woodworking and then say, no, you don't have to learn dovetails. Everybody likes dovetails. So that's why we kind of threw a bone there, and it's in the book. Extending that then to box joints and some of those other, alternative ways to do something like that, like a drawer side or whatever, just went a little bit too far for us. So that's why. But yeah, I mean, I can totally see someone justifying having those in the book.
Turns out, first episode of episode 15 is the router station.
Oh, there you go.
There it is.
Yeah, that's a fun one. It's a classic.
We have a question here that I pulled from Edward Leclerc. Greetings from Greenlee, Colorado.
Oh, hello.
Do you have any recommendations for fixing a hard maple sign that a single board has bowed out of place? It's a double-sided sign, each side 1.5 inches, and laminated. Ooh.
I would need to see this thing.
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like it needs a little bit of surgery, but both sides of the sign are needed. I would need to see some pictures. Maybe shoot me an email or something. But I don't even know that I'd have a great solution for that because it's clearly in the middle and it's part of the signs, things that make it a sign,
Can
like
you,
letters or whatever.
Clamp it or?
It just depends. I don't know if it's misbehaving.
Missed it.
Spray it down with water. Just run it through the washer. Should be fine. But that is one of those, sort of major surgery things you might need to. I would need to see what we're talking about here to give any kind of, logical advice about it.
Oh,
okay, this one, I still have to figure out a way to do this so people can get caught up. So Josh says, I recently rewatched your outdoor finish video where you used Epifanes varnish. How's that holding up? It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's awful.
Potato chips.
Potato chips.
Potato chips.
The problem is there's a couple variables with this particular table, and I don't think the finish is 100% the blame.
Right.
Because I have other things that were finished in a similar way that are holding up really, really well. This particular, ever since I built that table, I probably will never build another outdoor piece with Western red cedar. It's so soft. If you even just breathe on it, it's probably going to dent.
Dougie likes to stand on the table and look at us when we put him outside, and you can see his claw marks. And
and it isn't like he's clawing.
No, he's just standing
he's
on it,
walking
moving
on it. So it dents so easily. It's like one of the softest woods I've ever worked with. I will never use that for an outdoor project again. That softness leads to dents, right through the finish that's on top of it.
Poking through it.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. And as soon as you interrupt that film finish, you have an opportunity for water to infiltrate the finish. And as soon as that happens, game over, right? So that's what happened with this thing. I also had breadboard ends on there. And those breadboard ends, in process of refinishing it, as you get that expansion and contraction, any film that was there gets split. And then you have another infiltration point there. So all of those things put together with the wood species, the way it was constructed, those are going to be a challenge for any finish that I put on there. The other thing was this table was the first time I used Total Boat sealer and not CPES. The Total Boat stuff is a little bit, it's not as caustic and just noxious. It's absolutely awful to the senses. Sorry, let me reverse that. CPES will burn your nostrils, right? It's absolutely awful stuff, but it works great. That's a clear penetrating epoxy sealer. Total Boat has their version that is a kind of a different beast. It doesn't behave the same way. It's a little bit different, but it's supposed to serve the same purpose. But it's definitely not nearly as offensive to the senses. So I use that as the sealer and then put Epifanes on that. So that is one variable. I'm not throwing Total Boat under the boat. I was going to say bus, but boat was the more appropriate thing.
Because didn't you use that on the outdoor sitting bench? What did you use on an outdoor sitting bench?
No, outdoor sitting bench was all traditional. My traditional two finish sequence with basically CPES and Epifanes.
Okay.
So the outdoor sitting bench has the CPES, that's holding up great. The outdoor gate, holding up great. The Greene and Greene Adirondack chairs, holding up great. All of them have the same, 1-2 punch finish. So the table was the only one finished with Total Boat. But again, because of the wood, because of the way it was constructed, I don't want to throw Total Boat under the bus here and say that that's the reason why the finish is failing.
The wood honestly failed it.
I think the wood is a big part of it. So what finish is appropriate for that particular table that's very soft, has movement issues? Not a film. That's what's appropriate. So maybe
the fire pit.
Yeah, what's appropriate? Chopping it up and burning it. I would say something more like, I'm going to try actually when I get a chance. What do you call it? Osmo's outdoor oil. They've got an oil that has some UV protection in it. This is not a finish that's going to be super protective, but it's one that can be maintained fairly easily. Whether it's every 6 months, every year, I don't know. But I'm going to try that. So the way I present this to people, I want to be careful about it because I don't want to crap all over Total Boat. They make great products. But if I talk about it and say, what makes this table different than the other things that I've done that are holding up well, one of those variables is the sealer that I used. And I don't know that it's fair to say that Total Boat is at fault here. I think it really is the project itself. So I'm getting at the point now where how many times can I make a video about finishing the same table by spending hundreds of dollars on new product? Like, at what point is this? It was already ridiculous with the amount of money I threw into that refinish, and I got to do it again. Yeah. So I'm, giving you as much info as I can.
One of the projects we have on our list is an outdoor coffee table. So you have another opportunity to.
Well, I would most likely get some teak.
Yeah.
Or mahogany, something that I have a little more faith in, its ability to survive outside. And I probably will use a more maintenance-based finish, something that isn't going to create a thick film.
Alec in the chat room, speaking of outdoor furniture instead of cedar, how do you feel about sapele?
Sapele.
Sopapilas.
Yeah. How do you feel about sopapilas? They're great. A little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of honey. So good. I think I would put that in the category of mahogany. It's very much like mahogany. Probably would hold up pretty well with a good finish on it. Some of the things, like I said, some of my outdoor pieces that have held up the best have been made from mahogany. And maybe Shannon can answer how close that is to sapele, but they're very comparable woods in terms of properties.
Andy has a question right there.
Okay, Andy wants to know, could you do a video, show us some of your old projects to see how they're holding up? I think you actually have done this before, but I want an update. Maybe we can do another one. I have done this, you're right. What was it called? Like Humble Pie?
I think it was called Humble Pie.
Initially, and then I changed it so that it would actually make sense for SEO.
Yes.
We could do something like that.
Because I think you even showed like the chessboard, maybe, that blew up.
Yeah, that was a wood movement lesson. That wouldn't be a bad idea. I think
kind of neat.
Especially when you look at like the kitchen table, like newer projects we've made since being in Colorado.
Even the gaming coffee table, that thing is...
Well, that went through a move. And look, the bottom line is whenever you have kids and crumbs and stuff where the crumbs can go and it's rubbing up against finish, you're going to have abrasion and it's not going to be great.
Michael Garbini?
Sure.
Because I'm on vacation in Colorado and I love it.
Oh, hey, welcome to Colorado, my friend.
Have fun.
It's a great time to be here.
Oh, it's so
Weather
beautiful.
is gorgeous. It's nice and sunny.
We're going to go to Missouri where it's all humid and
gross,
sticky.
And Missouri-ish.
Gnats. I've been seeing posts in my feed about how to keep gnats away from your face.
You know what I do? I go old school, Nicole. I swat them little suckers.
Alec says, bandsaw blades. Do you tap into the buy once, cry once with the carbide blades like Resaw King, or keep buying cheapy HSS blades? Thoughts?
Oh, I had a carbide blade. I had Laguna's Resaw King. That was a great blade, but there was a time where I actually hit a nail or something like that, and it was very upsetting when things went wrong. Honestly, since then, I've just been using, regular high-speed steel blades. I've got a little stash of Carter blades. So when Mr. Snodgrass came to visit the shop, he brought me a gift of blades. So I've been using those.
Instead of flowers. Blades.
Yeah, that's what you bring woodworkers. Okay. You don't bring flowers. You bring tools and consumables. So those have been working very well. It's tough to say, man, because the carbide ones are so much more expensive, but they do cut really well, and they're nice and clean. So it just depends. It really depends. I can't give you a straight answer on it because I've done both, and I've liked having both. But there is something nice to know about if something goes wrong at the bandsaw and I screw that blade up, I could get another one, and it's brand new, and I'm not out like $125, and I don't have to send it back to be sharpened or repaired.
There you go. Jason Deal says, curious how much milk paint you went through on the Halltree project. Sometimes I wonder if I go through too much with my cheaper Rockler HVLP sprayer.
I went through a gallon plus a quart. So, and I had to do a little bit of dilution because initially I used the wrong size needle and cap set. I didn't have a bigger one. So I wanted to dilute it a little bit. But grand total, we went through about a gallon plus a quart. It was a big project, though. A lot of coverage.
Very, very big. Yeah, a number of times I'm like, oh, you're done. Nope, I still see bleed through.
Yeah.
Chris says, speaking of Greene and Greene chests, with the updates added drawer and lower bottom, can both be done? In the plans it shows one and the other. What does that mean?
Say what?
Huh? With the updates
drawer
added.
And lower bottom can...
I'm not sure I understand
I
the
think,
question.
well, we had alternatives in there, I believe, where we were saying, like, if you don't want a drawer compartment,
Oh,
you could do this other thing.
gotcha.
Well, I don't think we provided a way of doing that. That's not to say that you can't. And my brain is not totally in to that project at the moment, so I might not be giving you a very good answer to this. But there's always a way to do something. But I think if you, I don't know that there's a way to combine the alternative lower version with the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point of providing it was if you don't have the drawer, this is now possible.
Johnny Matney did a super chat. Thank you, Johnny. John Williams says, Nicole, what's your next quilting project?
Great question.
I am currently making a quilt for my niece. Her first 2 years of clothing that her mom saved, I'm turning it into hopefully a twin size quilt. I think I have enough for a twin size quilt.
Cool.
I actually did get an email from someone watching Friday Live. Maybe it was you, John. I'm not sure. Asking me how I make the quilt. There is an amazing quilter out there that I actually used to have my son's and my daughter's quilt made. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, I really want to learn how to do this. So she created almost a guild level tutorial on how to make, it's a baby quilt, but you can do t-shirt quilts with it too. So if you go to listaloo.com, I'll put it in the chat here. She has a tutorial. You can download it digitally for $15, and she has videos. And I was like, oh, is this how the guild feels? Because I loved it. It was awesome. So listaloo.com if you're curious about making your own t-shirt quilts, because she's amazing.
Cool.
Yep.
It's neat. It's neat seeing you get into a hobby like that.
Yeah.
Because it's been a while. like video games has been your hobby for the last 10 plus years. Yeah. So seeing you getting into a craft is cool. I like it.
I made my mom, I showed the sweater quilt and I sent that to her. She's like, oh my goodness. She's like, you need to sign this.
I like Gazank's idea. You won't be the quilt whisperer. You'll be the softly speaking seamstress.
There you go. I like that too. Yeah, I really enjoy it. It's nice. It's nice to make something, and know that, like you said, you've said it a number of times about furniture, that this will be probably here after I'm gone. So
that's one of the great things about building stuff. If you build it at a reasonable quality level, it will likely outlast your lifetime. And hopefully you build something that is that can stand the test of time, not just physically, but stylistically, so that it isn't one of those things that your great grandkids are like, I want to throw this thing away, but my great grandmother made it, and now I'm stuck with it because it's sentimental, but it looks like crap.
Yeah.
I just want my stuff made out of space age plastic because it's the year 2200.
That sewing box that I had you fix for me? Yeah. I use that as my seat.
That's great.
It's perfect.
Cool.
I know you, over the years, you're like, why are we dragging this thing around? I'm like, it was my grandmother's and my dad gave it to me and I want to hold on to it. And I finally found a use for it.
Awesome.
So
That's good to hear.
Yeah.
Now if we could find a use for my golf clubs. That'd be great. We've had this war between this little piece of furniture Nicole would not get rid of or throw away because of sentimental reasons, and then she would harp on the fact that I have a set of golf clubs that I will not get rid of because once you buy a set of golf clubs, why would you ever get rid of them? Because you never know. One day you might want to go to the driving range and whack a few balls, Nicole. And I still reserve the right to do that.
John Williams says, quilt rack, ladders, hangers are all fun to build. I've seen one where the rack was like mounted to the wall. I would love that.
Oh, that's neat. That's a cool idea.
Then it's like,
you got wall space down there that we can do that?
I do.
We can do something like that.
I would love that. Because then as I'm building things, I can put it over to the side.
Someone wants to know if I just missed the question. Stephen Gossett, did you get all of your tats done in AZ or do you have a place in Colorado? I got pretty much all of them done in Arizona.
This one is in Hawaii, Maui.
Well, I got one done in Hawaii. I'm not going to recommend you go there. I do. It was a great place, and Maui was fantastic. But this arm was not totally finished when we left Arizona, and my tattoo guy there, I think, was milking it a little bit. So when I got to Colorado, I went to Think Tank South and went to the guy there, the main dude that owns the place. And he is fantastic and fast and aggressive, and I wasn't used to it, and it hurt quite a bit. But he basically was cool enough to jump in on someone else's work and finish it.
Did you get Ava
I did
at it?
a little bit, yeah. I had to get Ava. I have 4 stalks of bamboo on my forearm that represent our family. 3 of those, I told the story before, but 3 of them were done in Arizona, and it was like 2 days after Nicole found out she was pregnant with Ava, and I was like, well, poop. So when we got to Colorado, as the guy was doing this work, had him jump on the left arm and finish that bamboo stalk. But the place I go is Think Tank South, really, really good tattoo shop.
Johnny has a super chat and says, I have some, is it Panera?
That sounds good for lunch.
Panera pine boards that I have finished on them.
Parana.
Oh, I've never heard of Parana.
Neither have I.
Pine boards. Do I need to strip them before I plane them to 3/8? YouTube has a lot of new Yankee Workshop episodes too.
Okay, so, well, what are you doing with them?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have any pre-finished board and you want to plane them to 3/8, oh, I see what he's saying. He wants to bring them down to 3/8, but he doesn't know if he should be removing the finish first, or can he just send it right through the planer?
Right.
I think unless you're dealing with some kind of a crazy, and maybe this Parana pine is something, it's a product that I'm not aware of, but unless you have a super hardcore finish on there that might damage your blades, if we're just talking about a standard, simple floor polyurethane or something, some kind of finish that we're familiar with.
Like.
Okay, so it's the style.
Yeah.
Parana pine. Ultimately, most finishes send it right through the planer. The planer doesn't give a crap. The first pass through the planer will go past the finish and into the raw wood, and I don't think it's going to do much in the way of damage to your planer blades.
It looks like a normal.
I mean, there are certainly some finishes out there that might be problematic, but unless you know for sure that it is one of those really heavy-duty industrial finishes, I don't think you have anything to worry about.
Let's see here.
I get so many questions about this, Morgan. I wish I had a great answer. I should start putting my brain into it, but I really, between guild projects, I'm really trying to make a strong effort to focus on free site stuff. Mm-hmm. And I don't think about the guild project again until I'm ready to build one. So I don't have an adequate answer. We are doing an undercabinet workbench for the roubo, and all I have is a line art image and nothing more. So people are like, well, should I do this in building to facilitate? I'm like, look, I built it exactly as it's shown in the roubo series. So I will be starting with whatever that series tells you to do. In anticipation of building that, should you not put those little shelf rails down at the bottom? I don't know. But all I can tell you is I'm starting with that. And if I have to remove them, you'll see that. And if I incorporate them, you'll see that. So I wish I could I probably should spend a few days doing initial design work so that I could at least give you some of those answers. But I just haven't had the chance to do that. I'm sorry.
Jeannie Grassie's in the chat. Daphne and I are so glad to be back in the shop after a harrowing couple of months. Will UV darken cherry quicker if I don't want to stain?
Okay, before I answer her question, hopefully Jeannie doesn't mind. I don't want to get too personal, but I hope everything's okay, Jeannie. She had to throw her dog out a window.
What?
Because of a condo apartment fire.
Oh, no.
And this poor dog had to take flight. And the dog's fine.
Yeah.
She said that the dog's a little angry with her.
A little bit.
So, what is it? Daphne is the name of the dog? I hope Daphne's doing okay. I hope Daphne has forgotten the trauma of that incident.
Lots of treats.
Could you imagine if you had to throw Dougie?
It wouldn't happen. He's like 70 pounds of like...
Oh, but I could drop him out a window. I'm just talking about the person on the other end.
He would just go boonk.
Like, this is a terrible thought to even have, but that dog is he's just a lead weight.
Like when he falls off the bed, he goes, okay, this is happening.
Yeah, he just gives in.
Just gives in.
He doesn't try to brace himself. He doesn't try to land on his feet. He just goes with it.
He just limp.
He rolls into it. He tucks and rolls.
So her question is about the darkening cherry quicker.
Let's see. So will UV darken cherry quicker if I don't want to stain? I don't understand the question.
So, you have projects where you put it in the sun and it darkens up.
Sure, but quicker than what?
Than just letting it sit.
Well, UV does help, yes. Exposure to UV will cause the cherry to darken. If you have an opportunity to let it sit outside in direct sunlight for a little bit, that will certainly help accelerate that process. If you want to try like a baking soda stain, I actually did a quick video on that a couple years ago. You can use baking soda to age it a little bit. There's other, you could use lye, basic solution of lye, which is a little bit more, not fun to work with. So there are options of things you could add to it, but sun works. I think I did that with, what was it? The first guild build, we did a cherry and a maple shaker table. And both of those, well, actually just the cherry one, I put that guy outside and let it get a few hours of Arizona sun. And man, look, the thing is, in direct sun, if I come home with cherry boards or cherry plywood and something is sitting on top so that one of the boards gets blocked, there will already be signs of a suntan by the time I get home. So this is not a process that takes an incredible amount of time, but definitely something you can do, and it's free and is not dangerous, and there's no chemicals involved.
And she doesn't want to use stain. So
yeah, so if you don't want to use stain, which why? If you want that color, you can accelerate that process with UV.
There you go.
I often wonder if it'd be worth it.
Poor Dougie's fine.
Yeah, Dougie, he'll be fine. The thing I always wonder is like how well would like a UV light work? Some kind of a grow light or like lights for reptile habitats. Put it in a
tanning bed.
Yeah, basically a tanning bed for furniture. I don't know how well that would work, but it would be something. Because the other thing outside is you do have to be careful about temperature.
Yeah.
So the surface temperature in direct sunlight can rapidly pull moisture out of the wood. So you do need to be careful in how hot it is and how much exposure it gets. Sometimes it's not a bad idea to put a little finish on there as long as there's no UV inhibitors. But that first coat of finish will kind of help protect it while it's out in the sun. So you've got options.
Yeah, that's a new business model for all the tanning companies that
they're not doing people.
When they need business.
Yeah, when they're not ruining people's skin, they could darken furniture.
Let's tan your wood.
Whoa, Nicole. We usually cover that up.
Alrighty. All right. So I think
we're near the end.
We are way past.
Holy smokes, we're over time. This is what happens when we start early. We've got extra time.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got so much work to do today too.
So I picked the Guild Project winner last week. You can pick this week.
Okay. I pick a wiener. Oh man, I lost my notes. Hold on. I closed it because I wasn't using it. I'm going to give it to one of our regulars here. How about Aaron Pena?
Yeah, there you go.
For giving us the detailed explanation of how he pronounces his name.
There you go.
That's the reason he wins. So Aaron, you get a guild project, man.
Email me. You can email us through Patreon, or you can email me directly, Nicole@thewoodwhisperer.com, and I'll get you set up.
Yeah.
There you go.
Jeannie's going to try the tanning bed. There you go.
Yay.
Excellent. Thanks, Jeannie.
Zimbabwe. What? Chris.
Zimbabwe? What are you doing there? How'd you get there? That's far. That's cool. Good to know. I love the international audience.
I will say, watching that Men in Black movie made me wish we actually had a speed bullet.
Right. That train.
That train was crazy.
To get from New York to London in just a few minutes.
That was awesome.
Hold on to your butts.
Oh yeah, Happy Father's Day. It's going to be Sunday.
Oh, it'll be Father's Day on Sunday.
Fun Father's Day. What do you want to do? You want to do anything special?
I want to answer Worth Effort's question. He says, is there any furniture style, excuse me, that Dougie has decided is not gnaw worthy? I'll tell you what, we've gotten lucky. I feel like it's a seal that once broken, we're in trouble. But for whatever reason, this dog pays no attention to furniture.
He loves plastic boots.
He likes plastic and rubber things. Mm-hmm. He'll chew shoes. He'll chew clothes.
He won't chew shoes. He chews rubber rain boots.
Right. Ava's little rain boots.
Ava's rain boots.
He will chew toys like you wouldn't believe. Mm-hmm. And if he comes in the shop, he'll chew some wood material, and then I shoo him out of here. But thankfully, so far, fingers crossed, he has not chewed any furniture yet.
And when I do see he's on, I get those Himalayan chews.
Yeah.
And that's really been the only thing that occupies him, and he will not devour in like that.
Plus, he's also now a year and a half, going on 2 years old. He's starting to move out of that crazy puppy phase. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's still kind of nuts at times, but he is definitely not the same little rambunctious puppy that he was before. So that's good. What about Millie? Love for Millie. That's a great question. Millie is the best dog. You put up a post about this. Yeah. That was perfect. Millie is a great dog if you don't mind her stealing food off of the countertops,
stealing food,
jumping the fence and running away.
And eating diapers.
Eating diapers, and occasionally, this is a little personal information, when she has to go poo, she won't go in the house until the absolute very last resort, which I really appreciate. But what she will do is drop a little Hershey Kiss. And that's our sign that, why didn't you go to the door? We would have let you out. And then you got to go clean that up. But anyway, Millie is a fantastic dog, minus those other things. She's a cool dog.
She is a cool dog. So thank you, everyone. Happy Father's Day on Sunday. And
see this?
Yeah, I keep deleting them. They keep
Did you ban them?
Yeah, I banned them. See?
You just hit them.
No. Well, you can't.
Okay,
you can't ban them.
You can't ban them?
No.
You could report them.
I've done that too.
You could put them in timeout. You get in timeout for spamming. You get over there. No, you don't look at me. 3 minutes.
Yeah.
One minute per year of age. That person gets a 45-minute timeout.
All right. Toodles.
Okay, hey, everybody.
Yeah.
Go check out the video on the dining table. It's a good one. You see a lot of Jason in there, which is fantastic. And have a wonderful weekend.
I'll get it up on Amazon. Probably it takes about a week for them to get there. So.
Oh, thank you. Happy Father's Day to all you other fathers out there as well. All right. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll see you. Toodles indeed, Nicole.
Toodles.